Listen, you've got 5 seconds to listen to this podcast, or I will shoot a phaser directly into your ass, because this is V'ger Please, a heinous trip at Warp 5. And my name is Joseph.
And I've been practicing my singing in the car. I'm your co-host, Peter.
Peter, what episode of Star Trek Enterprise did we watch this week?
I like how we're getting so to the point, man. There's no fucking around anymore.
I mean, it's good, and I actually want to talk about it. Like, that's the thing. Like, we were fucking around a lot earlier in the season because it's like, oh, Jesus, fuck. I don't want to do this. Like, this is real bad.
Yeah, I feel like season 2's well behind us now. We're firmly into season 2, episode 21, The Breach.
Who was the director again of this, my friend?
The Breach first aired April 23rd, 2003. Teleplayed by Chris Black and John Sieben. Story by Daniel McCarthy. Directed by Robert Duncan McNeil.
Spoiler alert, I think this episode's amazing. Shockingly good, in my opinion. Because I just didn't remember it very much, and except for one scene that still held up to me in regards to Phlox's story arc here. How much of the quality of this episode do you think is Robert Duncan McNeil's directing? It felt like there was actually a difference here in that because he knows what works on camera for this franchise, he kind of gave the all of the actors the right beats to hit that made it all, like Mayweather in particular was helped tremendously here by giving him an entirely different direction to go in.
I was not super in love with the episode. I didn't think it was bad, but I'm not singing the praise for it you had. And honestly, until I just saw Robert McNeil on the director credit here, this isn't Frakes. There isn't that finger, that thumbprint of a style mark.
Yeah, there isn't an artistry to it. It was more performance-driven changes, in my opinion, and I don't know if that was maybe him saying, listen, this is where you need to be with this,
Thinking back on the episode and what you're describing now, I agree. I think that there is I don't want to say it's a charm, but there is a momentum that the scenes had that I think someone, listen, man, I've been the guy in the uniform. Let's try going this way. The hard part about looking at this episode and really saying, how is this different from previous episodes, is the climbing gimmick is so pervasive in this that it really makes it an odd duck for the season, because there's this heavy reliance on a physical activity component.
Yeah, and it does drag.
It does drag, and once they get a little deeper, there's also a lot of plot hole-ish gripey stuff, specifically with the climbing, right? That distracted me from it. But looking at the good drama in sickbay and the interaction that the Enterprise crew will come to have with the scientists they're there to rescue, yeah, there's a bit more action. Not action. There's more energy on the screen.
Yeah, energy, I guess, is the right way to describe it.
Someone wound these guys up, and that would absolutely be the effect of the director on it. Also, I mean, when's the last time Robert Duncan McNeil directed an episode of Star Trek? You start bringing in some of these guys like David Livingston and these other people. I don't want to say they're punching a clock, but they've been in that director's chair with Federation uniforms in front of them over and over and over and over again. So, like, you do something a lot, you get used to it, and you're not getting excited. McNeil, this still has to be probably in the beginning portion of this guy's professional directorial career track. So, still fresh and a lot of energy that he's bringing to the table. Not some guy like, oh, hey, I'm directing 6 episodes this season. Oh, cool. I'll see you, 2 weeks from now. We're going to be doing the next one. Like, that moonlighting is still there. The moonlight phase is still there.
Yeah, he had done the 4 episodes of Voyager and then 1 episode of Enterprise up to this point, which was Cold Front, which, wasn't anyone's favorite. But I think you're right in that he's still kind of fresh to directing, and that might have helped deliver the energy that we're identifying here. And I loved it because I think that the energy in 3 particular spots in this episode just made it feel like a different show. It felt like this was a show that had confidence in itself, had direction, that where the actors kind of really were getting into what they were doing. So much of the season poo is just felt like guys just cashing checks. It just didn't. I didn't feel like anyone really cared about what was going on.
And we have blamed all of that on Braga and Rick Berman, but we have seen the same 4 or 5 director names over and over again, and I would say that they are just as complicit in cashing that check. And exactly what I said before, like this is a day in. This might as well be a 9 to 5 for some of these directors. You see their names so much, like I don't blame them for not getting excited. Like,
Yeah,
okay, all the criticisms that you and I levy at these episodes, these directors are not stupid. They can see a retread.
yeah.
Oh God, here's this fucking, we beat to death this concept back in Voyager, and here am I doing it in Enterprise for the 3rd time already. Like, yeah, it's going to take the energy out of a room. It could be a turkey script, and if you've got a director who's not energized, I think that's a big contributing factor to a lot of our complaints about early season poo.
And he brought up Frakes, of course, and he's famous for bringing a ton of energy whenever he's behind the camera.
Absolutely.
To the point where other actors like, Jesus Christ, dude, like you need to tone it down. So maybe it's hard to know how much is him, but I'm willing to give him a lot of credit for something I think turned out great. And it's really a Phlox episode, which is where the teaser starts. It does start with Phlox introducing the concept of tribbles to Hoshi, who's enraptured by it, as all people are, and then he immediately feeds it to something and goes, "Yeah, the only reason that they don't like dominate their entire planet is that they're food for all the predator species on their planet. You're not supposed to take them off because all they do is breed prodigiously."
That's why I've got them in a lockbox.
And he gets a message from Hoshi, hands it to him. He looks ashen, and then they move into the plot, which is that there's a planet that the NX-01 is nearby. It has had a change in government, had a little unstable change of power, a little January 6 action going on up in there, and the new boss does not want dirty Xenos on the planet and has demanded everyone leave, which is a problem because there's a bunch of Denoblian scientists who are deep within some caves there that haven't been able to be communicated with in weeks. And so someone's got to go and get them out. And in a classic Star Trek trope, they're the only ship nearby.
We broke down how many ships are in 24th century Starfleet, how many populated worlds are out there.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's an old song and dance. Oh, you're the closest ship, but like
that's going to happen a lot. Space is big,
so thin that like
yeah,
that's legit as fuck, man.
Yeah. It's like you don't have a huge Starfleet because it would be really expensive to maintain, and you don't have a lot of people who necessarily want to be part of it, right? Like you live in a post scarcity utopia. I don't want to go off and face space horrors. I'm going to stay right here on my planet.
You know what? I don't think I need to be on the brink of madness 3 times a pay period. Actually, I think I'm going to stay here on the holodeck and just get my dick cyber sucked while I don't know, replicate cocaine or whatever the hell it is.
You just have a lot of people who make first contact with the holodeck and they don't survive, and that's just part of population control in the 24th century. It's like, here's the holodeck, and it's like a shit test for if you can control yourself or not. If you can, it's like, congratulations, welcome to the rest of our utopian society. And then you come in and there's one guy who's just OD'd on crack cocaine, and he's like, okay, well, that guy wasn't gonna make it.
We used to talk and we're not doing it here because there's no holodecks, but like I love talking about the holodeck and what that could realistically do to a population. And you're talking about population control. Like, yeah, if you just go out, who needs Tinder? Who needs disposable dates and real flesh? I mean, if you could just go come in a hologram and then make it go away, like I think you would see the Federation, the record of childbirth
plummet
the second the holodecks become accessible to the general public.
I mean, the in the 24th century, holodecks were new technology, so
And that
that's something to remember. So
we're
maybe
gonna
not even really be accessible to the public.
again, the amount of arguing and hair splitting that we have done on details like the holodeck, which per encounter at Farpoint was this newfangled crazy technology that has impressed everybody, and the amount of mental gymnastics we've had to do, be like, well, it's that we're version 10 or whatever, that there were holodecks before, and not even counting fucking Discovery and the shit they had going on in there, but there's some sort of holographic simulator or whatever on the Enterprise, Kirk's Enterprise, in some form or another. It's been even Phlox, right? Was that his name? Childhood Tale, Fliblet and Giblet or
I
whatever.
was going to say, did you just confuse the chief medical officer of the NX-01 with the throwaway? Uh, what was it? Uh,
Fleeblin?
child's basically Blues Clues for the 24th century.
Listen, you're trying to say it was throwaway. They tried to sell a real doll. Like they wanted
Yeah.
this
Okay.
thing to be. Anyways, the reason I'm bringing up the arguing about minor technical details and ship's lore is that as they are prepping the away team to go down to the surface that is going to try to rescue these Denoblians, we cut to the shuttle bay, Joe.
We do.
Now, we
We
talk
do.
a lot about the shuttle pods, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I'm going to have to beat this fucking dead horse, all right? Because
You've got a grudge to settle with the
this
physician in
shot,
France.
this shot of the shuttle pod, right?
Yeah.
You see it. Okay, so I'm going to call Jack out again for like the 8th time here. This fucking hatch, he's saying, is the hatch they use to secure to like dock with other ships. That hatch cannot open. If what he's calling the connector arm is extended, this hatch cannot physically open and then also connect with the ship. I put the pictures up on the trauma support group. For it to do it, it would have to crush the door and break it off. And it's ridiculous, right? We're arguing about a set piece that I can look at it and see it's 3/4 inch plywood. Like, there's nothing space sturdy about this goddamn thing at all. But yeah,
this ongoing grudge will never end.
it's just a like anything nerd related, it's a big waste of effort and breath in something that the people who were responsible for making it didn't give 4 minutes of thought to. They're
Well,
like,
what had a lot of thought put into this was the away team that was going to go down and save the miners, because it was going to be it was going to be Trip, it was going to be Reed, and the new character we've never met before, Ensign Travis Mayweather, except this guy is the Uber Chad version of Travis Mayweather that apparently came out of a fucking cloning vat, or just like maybe going home revitalized him or something, because this guy might as well he bears no resemblance to the Travis Mayweather we've seen before. This is a man who's so in charge of the situation, he's clearly intimidating his senior officers without trying.
well, listen, when you make it clear that people are going to be in each other's company pissing and pooping into bags that they will then be keeping on their person, you're throwing everybody's game off a little bit, all right? Examining Mayweather, and this is what Chris Black and John Sheban, right? So
Yeah.
this is established character lore for Mayweather. Back in 2 Days and 2 Nights, which was their initial visit to Ryza, Mayweather was doing rock climbing while those guys were trying to pick up aliens strange in the bar and getting abducted by shapeshifters. Travis had a climbing accident. I think he broke his arm maybe, and then got
Correct.
super sick in the hospital, and that became its own Phlox adventure. So, and let me go ahead and say it right now, further reflecting the way that this episode has made me about what a badass professional climber Mayweather is. How fucking absurd that the best guy at climbing in cave. Where do you find caves, Joe?
You would find those on planets.
Oh, planet. So
Yeah.
like
The thing that
underground.
Travis has the least amount of experience with.
So not on a space truck.
No, you do not find climbing situations on space trucks. There are no caves in space trucks.
There's no bottomless pits to jump and rappel down.
No.
What a ridiculous thing in hindsight to lay on this guy's known trait list. Like, I'd have bought it off of Hoshi,
Yeah.
or Reed
Yeah.
or Rostov or whatever the fuck his name was, who knew that Trip was acting goofy. Any person on this ship is a credible cave wall rock climbing expert, except the
Except for
boomer.
Travis, yes. Like everyone except for him, this trait makes sense. Like you said, it is continuity. So okay, like you put it on the character sheet. It's in there now.
Mm-hmm.
But it is ridiculous that he is apparently a professional climber. And I loved the way that he was just, they go down to the surface and it's fucking intimidating as shit. And Trip's like, "Is there a beginner, cliff for us to try on?" And he goes, "No, I'll go first. Don't worry, Commander. The adult is here. I'll handle this." And like the entire episode, he's like dogging his bosses about how much they suck at what they're doing right now.
What I also love is this is the first episode. God, I can't tell you the last time it's happened where it's like, we've got a mission. It revolves an away team down to a planet. And Archer, I think maybe for the first time ever in the entire series, is like, you know what? I'm going to stay on the ship.
I'm not going to go climbing. I'm going to manage the situation.
For whatever fucking reason, the scientist, any other stupid fucking reason to go down to surface, he's on it. But this one's like, yeah, you know what? Trip and the security guy and my fucking helmsman, who again, mind-bogglingly is,
You're my best climber.
yeah, you guys go down. I'm gonna stay up here.
It's good that he stays up there because the A plot is the climbing. The B plot, actually, it's basically A1 and A2. They basically have even billing, I think.
Yeah.
Is that there's an alien transport that has super engine trouble. The anti-Xeno new government won't let that transport land because they're like, "No, we want all you guys gone." So NX-01 has to step in to help them out. And on that transport is a guy, just a guy with different stuff on his forehead, just like any other Berman era Trek alien. But this one, Phlox looks at and goes, just guy's got that look on his face like, "Oh, this is going to be a problem."
First, I was like, this guy must be like one of his wife's husbands or some sort of relation. Because we know that there's Denoblians on the planet's surface. Obviously, that's why we're here. I regret in this episode because the military, it's a military coup, right? It's an
Yes.
unstable government. A general has taken over and said, I'm in charge now. I'm calling the shots. Get all these fucking aliens out of here. You got 3 days, everybody, to get the fuck out of here, and then it's going to be open season on your ass. I wanted a scene where, like, as they're pulling up to the planet, there's just a ton of space traffic coming off of here, right?
There's a little bit. They did that a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean, within their constrained budget, I suppose, they tried to pull that off because it was all ships leaving as they showed up. And it was like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
They tried to give you that impression. It was just not enough. You know?
Failed. You did a bad job, Robert.
Bad job, Bobby. You need to spend more money on your effects.
Less on the fucking cave slides and more on this.
What we will discover about the A2 plot is this guy is a member of a species called the Antarans. And Antarans and Denoblians do not like each other. They don't like each other because, as we find out from Phlox, who's probably our most reliable narrator, as we find out in regards to what happened, is they fought wars against each other. The last war ended centuries prior, but they were brutal and bloody and terrible affairs, and neither side has spoken to the other in the interim. And over the course of those centuries, a lot of bitter a division has set in as propaganda in regards to the enemy has taken place about the other. And this guy does not want to be treated by a dirty Denoblian because they're all a bunch of, as far as he's concerned, space Nazis who experiment on members of his species and murder them by the millions.
What was the name of that Voyager episode with the holographic Cardassian?
Oh, yeah, with Space Dr. Mengele.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I forget the name of it, but I certainly remember. It's the one where B'Elanna didn't want to be treated by it.
The big rubber puppet, right?
Yeah.
So there's a little retread going on here, but it's an interesting setup for the story, especially because unlike the Cardassian Bajoran War and Occupation. This is all shit that happened 300 years ago. So it's very easy for outsiders to say, hey, this is completely unreasonable, and you guys need to move past this, especially since lives are on the line here. Some stuff doesn't jive, and it's stuff that Billingsley even calls out in the incredibly anemic Memory Alpha entry, that the picture that is painted of the Denoblians in this episode really seems to fly hard in the face of the Zen-like, easygoing, polygamous super swinger, ultra chill culture that we have seen of the Denoblians so far.
I didn't share Billingsley's opinion because I think that the plot tries to keep ambiguous really what happened, that it's so long ago that it's a matter of conjecture as to how bad were the like how bad really were the Denoblians when it came to the conflict. Maybe they were more victimized by brutality and responded like that to shake off their normal Zen behavior, and they resented that, and that's why they hate them. Like the whole purpose is
How
like
many million did he say? Like 20 million?
yeah, like the Denoblians killed 20 million Antarans, but he's not a reliable narrator to the facts, right? Like they say that straight out is where propaganda is awash in what happened, and there is no clarity as to what actually occurred. All we have is that, as we will find out, Phlox has a deep personal disagreement with the racial animus that a lot of Denoblians have towards Antarans, but I don't think that Billingsley is right in that it automatically portrays Denoblians as being uncharacteristic and having fought a war, merely because it may have been one where it was primarily defensive.
It's jarring. And had they had a segment in here where they said, it's a part of our past that we are not proud of, and we've made big changes and strides since then, and maybe like the chill behavior and culture they seem to have now as a result of backing off, or some sort of internal change that came about, like I could reconcile that a little bit better. It's not awful. It's not a showstopper by any means, but it was jarring. So here's a setup, right? The Centauran guy who kind of looks a little bit like what's his face, the murderous Bajoran guy from Voyager.
He looks like Lon Suter?
A little bit. You're not seeing that? Like the eyes, the little beady eyes. Anyways, the Antaran guy finds out that Phlox is there. I refuse to let a Denoblian touch me, but you'll die. I don't care. I'd rather die than let that monster touch me. This is a big deal. I am, in fact, probably the first Antaran that has seen a Denoblian in decades, and this is unspeakable, and I'm willing to die. And then Archer's like, well, Phlox, just treat him. And he's like, well, I can't because I got to respect this thing. And
he says a great line. He says, Hippocrates was not a Denoblian.
He says a lot of great lines, Joe. I wrote them all down. I wrote them all down, Joe.
How bad? So did it remind you of something when he said that? Like,
Oh, yeah. I got a whole paper. All right. Archer says to Phlox, just sedate and treat him.
Yeah.
And Phlox says, I have to respect his wishes. The will of the patient is the cornerstone of Denoblian ethics. And then Archer says, well, if you can help, Archer getting pissed, right?
Yeah.
If you can help, you're ethically bound to do so. Jonathan Archer said that.
Yes, he did.
And then Phlox goes,
Hippocrates was
not Denoblian. And then Archer says, Jonathan Archer, captain of the Enterprise, same captain from season 1, by the way.
Yep.
Says, this is an Earth ship. I won't let that man die in my sick bay if it can be prevented. I'm giving you an order to treat this deathly ill man. And then Phlox says,
yeah,
I can't follow that order.
Yep. That's exactly what happens.
Because I've had a change of heart. I'm going off the script so soon, me. The writer's room needs this plot. Fuck your continuity. I'll be as dumb as it takes to give this episode some high stakes. Forget what I've said before. Precedent is such a bore. It's not a temporal crime to change my mind. A change of heart.
Oh dear.
These two motherfuckers,
Yeah.
these two rotten motherfuckers that condemned an entire goddamn planet of women and children and nice Mr. Roger sweater wearing aliens to die of the most vicious,
Who were desperate for their help and requested it on multiple occasions.
in that same sick bay. Please,
Yes. Peter, you're just gonna have to let it go, man.
No, Joe, fuck that. I keeps it real. All right. I've looked a lot of different directions on a lot of episodes this season. Okay. But this fucking thing, they don't even mention a peep of this on the goddamn Memory Alpha.
No.
So
No.
I get it. It's conflicting. It's silly. It's not silly. It's
It's
awful
like
fucking writing.
it's exactly like I've said it before, and I think it's true. Just like have you have to let go of the stupid writing decision of Janeway deciding to make peace with the Borg to confront species, Mewtwo's. You have to let go of the stupid writing decision of Dear Doctor. Because otherwise, it's like the show's over. Like, you can never take these guys seriously. They're mass murderers.
I need them to say, well, listen, there's been things, there's a natural element, there's this or that. Like, I regret the decision. God, that's John Sheben, Chris Black. Had you just said,
because they could go back and they can't say that because they'd have to go back. They can go back and correct it anytime. Those Mr. Roger Sweater people are still there. They could go back and be like, "Oh, we cracked the code. Here's the cure. See ya." Anytime they want. They're not dying tomorrow, right?
Many of them are, Joe, and that's the thing.
That's the tragedy of it. And you just have to say you have to mulligan the show. You have to, or you're just going to keep getting drawn back.
I'll keep it around a 1 or a 2, but man, when it's a fucking medical ethics episode, and I've got him over there, you can't let that man die in my sick bay if it can be prevented, and twist his fucking arm behind his back. Like, ugh.
I liked the idea that they went with of Phlox's different interpretation of medical ethics is rooted in his culture. And it's just like, no, I'm not human. I don't practice medicine like a human. Wasn't trained like a human. And this actually matters to me. And what you're saying is not what's native to me. I like that. I like that a lot. But
sure.
You just you have to dispose of Dear Doctor or it just makes no sense. And then Peter breaks into a tremendous musical rendition, a legendarium.
This ethical bullshit. It's right there with the fucking shuttle pod and its inability to fucking dock with another vessel because the hatch they're supposed to come out of will just get fucking crushed. Like that's just this underlying theme in Enterprise where it's people not fucking paying attention and you just got to choke down the stupid shit. So, really, this is all just a vehicle about can Phlox overcome racism, and it's a beautiful story. It's good.
It is.
I like the framing on him putting his foot down and saying, if this guy is just telling me no, like really, and I'm not shitting on Phlox here so much as Archer. Archer's the big fucking hypocrite here.
True. Because Archer had the decision to make on if he was going to save those people and chose not to. Because Phlox came clean to him and said, I figured it out in Dear Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
He was still opposed to giving out the cure,
mm-hmm.
and that was consistent with his ethics. But it's Archer who punted on that for the stupidest reason. Yep. But for here, this is about Phlox trying to connect with this guy and convince him to be treated. And by convincing him to be treated, to take a different sort of racial attitude. And it's supremely well acted by John Billingsley in particular because, he gets insulted a lot. He has a breaking point.
That was the best part.
Yeah, he just barks out a very uncharacteristic but yet still very Phlox sounding sort of angerous like contempt for this man after all of the insults he lays down on him while he's just trying to treat him. And I thought the best part of the A2 plot was actually him sitting by himself to Paul coming in saying he doesn't want company, and then she just leaves, right? Like she's just like, oh, okay. Like I'm interpreting your desire literally, and he goes, oh, okay, no, wait, no, I actually do need advice. Please come back. Like just because if that would play so much differently if those characters were humans, but because they're aliens, like Phlox, that was very human thing that Phlox just did there, and he's kind of like picked that habit up from, because normally Phlox would be very open with his emotions. He would not hide. He would not want to hide anything, and so he's acting like a human. He's sulking. He's mad. He's not wanting to talk. It's not like him.
The cool part of that A1 plot, are we calling the A1 or whatever?
Yeah, I'm calling the doctor plot the A2 plot.
The better of the two plots, in my book, is that, you know, it on its initial framing, it's like, okay, well, this is maybe like the Cardassian Bajorn thing that we've already been exposed to, and
Yeah.
the Denoblians, you know, we can buy. All right, they were the bad guys, and the Antarans they're the ones really carrying the grudge. And it's in that outburst moment where Phlox reaches his breaking point, or like, oh no, like both sides of these races hate the fuck out of each other, and it really highlights like Phlox has been walking a higher road this entire time, impressively so, and finally this guy needled him down by drawing his kids into it, which at first seems just like a superficial low blow and like a good place for Phlox to blow up. But it's through. So what happens? Let's just talk about this plot.
Yeah. Let's just do
Right?
the A2 here.
So Archer's like, hey, I'm completely full of shit and the world's biggest fucking hypocrite. In fact, there's a Billboard top 10 song specifically dedicated to it called Change a Heart.
Yep.
You can find it on iTunes. I want you to go in and make sure that we're able to treat this guy. And then Phlox is like, well, I can't. Well, you know, try and mend the bridge a little bit. So Phlox puts an honest effort into trying to deal with this guy.
He is.
And this guy is using his dying breaths to flip off Phlox, rub his face and shit, and just be as mean-spirited as possible, because that's the way he was raised. We all understand how racism works, and it makes you do silly things and whatever. I will criticize the choice not to have this guy looking like complete rotten ass. Like, for someone who's supposed to die in the next 4 days of severe radiation poisoning because he was working on the warp core when, like, plasma space aids came out.
Mm-hmm.
This guy should be looking like some fucking Chernobyl shit here. And
Yeah,
I think
you should be dying an agonizing death and still hate Phlox enough to say no. It would have meant more.
yeah,
I agree with you.
it said his lips are kind of chapped.
Yeah, no, yeah, that kills you though. You just die.
I listen, especially when the corners of your mouth rip and it just
Oh
hurts
yeah.
so bad.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh man. It was so
Every
thank
brief
God
is
for global warming and eliminating these cold winters that chap my lips.
So he goes, hey, you know, listen, I'm trying to put out, this is silly, and you know, you need to try better. And the guy goes on the offense, oh, you know, wouldn't you be so proud? What if, you know, do you have family? Do you have children? What would they say if they knew that there was an Antaran, you know, in your midst? And he starts needling this parent button, and it goes right to the core on Phlox.
The payoff to this is that ultimately it was such a pain point for Phlox because he literally has lost contact with one of his children over this issue. And it's laid out very beautifully where he talks about childhood experience of a grandmother who is super racist.
He mentions the kids, and that's where Phlox loses his shit.
Yeah.
Says, you know, shut the fuck up, back off, take my wife's, you know, don't keep
Yeah,
my
so
wife's name out of your mouth.
Slaps him like he was Chris Rock. Just right across the face. And when he comes back kind of one last time to try and convince him, he goes through his story, and this is probably the best writing of the season.
And it's also telegraphed too, real quick. It's telegraphed in the conversation with Paul, because it's the grandma story, which was a good one.
And he talks about how his grandmother was super duper racist and wouldn't let him go on a field trip to a planet because Antarans once were there, which got it. I know where you're going with that. and he worked his life to try and change his own perspective. When his kids were old enough, he took them. He tried to impart upon them that these beliefs were stupid and silly and they shouldn't partake in them. But
Took them to the planet that he was supposed to go on a field trip to, but his grandma talked him out.
right, and one of his youngest son basically parted ways with him a decade prior because of Phlox's anti-racist beliefs. And this is why I cut him to his core when he was starting to bring up his kids. It's like, no, I've actually lost contact with one of my children because I
Metis is his name.
refuse to hate you. You
He's like,
know,
Metis was a good kid. Then he fell in with a bad crowd. Those Dick's Sporting Goods hunters back on the rogue
Space
planet.
Proud Boys.
Has there really been a super racist episode in Enterprise yet?
I mean, there's like quiet racism against Vulcans all the time.
Yeah, true.
It's
So
a soft
he's
racism,
like,
racism we're used to.
Listen, I take this shit serious, and I have sacrificed my own relationship with my son over this very thing here. So, you hitting me with this stuff, it cuts deep because I've tried to be better. I've tried to grow. I'm trying to make this work. I'm trying to save your life, and, all to great personal cost of me. And obviously this is, the money shot for the episode, so it cuts through the Antaran guy and it softens him up a little bit. And wouldn't you know it, turns out he doesn't want to die from space cancer after all.
His chapped lips got to get treated with some balm, and Phlox is on it. So
Mm-hmm.
the other plot is cave diving. As we mentioned, Mayweather is the hyper Chad who is leading the adventure. They've got this interesting rig on their back with lights. Like I saw they're going for like a high tech climbing rig and like magnetic like pylons and stuff. They try to like sci-fi it up a little bit.
Joe, what if I had a change of heart and fucked my own continuity? What if I said that this would have been a really great opportunity for them to have a flashlight strapped to their wrist?
I don't think I'd forgive you. So you should never say that, because I think like you have established over the course of hundreds of episodes of this show of your deep and unabiding hatred for
If you're
wrist
going
mounted
room to room
flashlights.
with a gun trying to like find people to shoot, a flashlight stuck on your wrist, that's a bad place for it. But like if you're climbing, you need to see where you're putting your hands. No, the rigs look cool, and it made it look silly at the same time because you've got these backpacks with like flashlight holders coming off of it, and almost like I wanted to just be like a Doc Ock fucking tentacle climbing backpack that helps them get up and down here. Which obviously in Voyager they had their cave episode. Why were they doing that in the caves? That was Neelix and who? Was that the Rock People episode where they find the Borg drone?
Yes, it was. And that was also the one where B'Elanna desperately needed to fuck someone to survive.
God, was that Blood Fever?
It was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about two weird plots to run congruently. Anyways,
Yeah, well, because it set up the cave-in that made it so that Tom and B'Elanna were stuck together when she was horny.
Yeah, and he
And that
refused
Tom
to
had to
fuck her to
refuse
save
to
her
fuck
life.
her. Yeah, like that was the setup.
Is that why they gave him the rock climbing episode?
You were great in that one there, Bobby. Like, let's do this one.
Look at that. So look at the let's compare those two episodes. The Voyager rock climbing episode also had a plot where someone was going to die if someone didn't do something to save their life, but there's a refusal to provide service. And then here it's the rock climbing episode where someone's going to die unless someone saves their life, but there's a refusal to allow them to provide service. Only instead of, Phlox fucking an Antaran, it's saving
It's
his
treating him for his lip balm problems.
Oh, you Star Trek writers, you one-trick ponies.
We fucking cracked the code. This is just
Mhm.
this is Blood Fever with less oily Klingons and fucking.
And rapist Vulcans, I believe.
Yeah. Because Vork came down to like claim his bride, and then
got his ass beat.
B'Elanna whooped his ass. He beat the horny out of him and was perfect.
After he killed all the fucking holodeck sex dolls the doctor made him.
I just left them all decapitated.
God, the holodeck's so good. Speaking about unwholesome activities to lead to the downfall of the 24th century. Um, e- so you got these kind of like futuristic backpacks, and like you think maybe some cool shit's going to happen, and it's just regular old rock climbing. And again, they're going down a cave that is a comically long
Yeah.
black pit.
Like, what is this? Like, this isn't normal, guys. Like, this is not normal caving you're doing here.
And they toss a fucking cable down. I'm like, that rope has to be like 6 miles. This is ridiculous that they have enough rope on them to scale this thing with the expectation they're going to be coming back up through here. And there's some cool stuff in this rock climbing, planet side away team thing, but just the logistics of it is so distractingly stupid. Starting with the fact that they don't have nearly enough rope to get down these holes. Also, there's this consistent concern of, are we going the right way? Are we going the right way? You're walking through caves. There's no wind. There's dust everywhere. There's not even mention like, oh, I see footprints. Oh, here's a part where we have to like crawl on our stomach through this narrow passage. Like you can see shit pushed all over the place. It isn't until there's like a lunchbox full of rocks that they're
There's
like,
any
oh yeah,
sign of anyone, yeah.
now that we've climbed all the way down this fucking thing, yeah, I guess we are going the right way. Also, too, they've got 3 days before the military starts shooting people. So they've got a day and a half to find the Denobian scientists and double back and get the fuck out. And if after a day and a half you haven't found them, the order is turn around and go back. So you've got that fucking, the timer over your head. But I don't know.
Mayweather has a really awesome moment where he saves both Reed and Tripp from falling into the abyss by like holding on to two men's worth of weight
How much
while
you think those
bracing
guys
his
weigh?
broken leg against the side of a cave. It's like it's like did Travis Mayweather come back like hopped up on mega testosterone or something and pull these capers down? I do not know, but they definitely do him some favors with the level of prepared and in charge he is. But they have to take him out because he's too prepared. So you got to have drama, and the drama is Tripp and Reed have to finish the deal.
They're
Uh,
going down this side of the rock. There is what's very clearly a slide spray painted gray. And I
yes,
said, if these guys aren't falling down this thing face first in the next 20 seconds, and I don't know anything about Star Trek, and lo and behold, they trip, they fall, and it's like you said, it's Reed and it's Tripp in the front and it's Mayweather in the back. And Tripp goes off the edge and then Reed goes off the edge. It's at this point I'm like, I'm still not connecting with this crew, and I would just laugh if both these guys just fucking die and get replaced here. They're just the most, well, I don't know, one of the more Star Trek ways to die. Just fell. And at the end of the slide, before you fall off the bottom, the into the chasm, there's this big mailbox shaped hole in the side of the wall. I'm like, well, tell me somehow Mayweather is going to grab this fucking thing and hold on to 3 people worth of weight. He gets his foot in there instead, right? And what
mm-hmm.
would you say? Tripp and Reed, maybe what? Combined, since they're like Hollywood ripped, maybe 375 pounds combined weight,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you're telling me that this dude's just fucking got his foot stuck in a hole in the wall while he's on a slide and supporting all their weight. And of all the complaints that I've been doing about logistics, like how silly it is in this cave and this and that and the fucking flashlights, the part of this I don't doubt for a minute is Travis Mayweather fucking jacked enough to support 2 fucking Hollywood actors dangling off the end of the rope?
He is.
Not
See,
for a second do I doubt that this guy absolutely, this is well within his wheelhouse.
no man could see that sculpted piece of obsidian with his shirt off and not think, nah, he's got this.
In fact,
He's,
I found it offensive that the episode didn't just have him pull these guys up with raw strength, like the notion that he would somehow let go of the rope and that they might fall a little further was just preposterous to me.
he gets one last little insult off when they have to like have him chill while they finish the mission. It's like, you'll be fine, ensign. He's like, it's not me I'm worried about. You two motherfuckers have no idea what you're doing. And but it's not a climbing episode, I guess, if Travis doesn't get hurt, so you got to make it happen. And you have Tripp and Reed who find the Denoblians. And when they find the Denoblians, they're a bitchy bunch of dudes. And, like they are the most irritating, self-obsessed, weirdo scientists that refuse to leave even after Tripp's like, nah, bro, like they're telling us we all have to leave, and if we don't, they're gonna kill you. Don't you understand? Like, we're here, we're supposed to get you. We've been asked to get you
We've been
because then
ordered to get you.
the guy the space fascists who took over up there, they're gonna fucking kill you. And they're like, oh, then more the reason to stay down here. Here's this great shot. This is what I want, like, another moment of this episode that I really liked, and I don't know who to thank for it. But like Tripp's just standing there, just like flummoxed by this refusal. Like, this makes no sense to him. They're not listening to his reason, right? They're not following orders and not listening to reason. He doesn't know what to do for like a split second, and he just kind of like shakes it off and he stares at him and be like, no, you're going. I don't care if I'm gonna beat you upside the head and tie you up and carry you out. You're fucking leaving with me. I can make you. Do you want me to make you? I can fucking make you.
The scientists put up some good counter arguments. We're deep enough down here that the strife on the surface isn't going to affect us. This planet goes through regime changes very frequently. There's a good chance by the time we're done, there's going to be a new regime in effect anyway. So, we're not worried about it. They justify their position pretty well, saying that if the Science Academy knew what we found down here, they would not be ordering us because shit we found in the cave down here is going to be very pertinent to a problem we're having on Adnoblius with earthquakes, and that we can save like 1 billion lives, right? These guys are basically living the Voyager dream that we have, that you are going on away team missions and finding great things that totally justify the zany
Going on the mission.
situation
Yeah.
that you've gotten yourself in. It also kind of identifies another silly part of this plot where it's like, okay, well, if you know the regime changes, and just leave your shit down here, let's go back up. And
It'll be
then
back
next
down there.
week,
No one's coming down there. It's a
yeah,
cave.
next week when they have their next regime change, come on back and resume your work. Like, presumably it's hard to get down there. It's inconvenient until we get a little deeper in, which might actually, in fact, be my favorite part of the episode. But yeah, Tripp's like, we're going or else. And they're like, fine, let us comically overpack all of our space rocks up so we can go. And
we find out in the next scene that Denoblians apparently are Spider-Man.
Great climbers, A+.
Like, that's why they're down there, because they're Spider-Man. they just climb things
to the impossibly deep pit of forever, where somewhere presumably above them is Travis Mayweather. The earth starts quaking. No, actually, I think they're stuck in like the claustrophobic, like sliding on their tummy part, where they find another lunchbox full of shit that they had squirreled away.
Yeah, and that's where Trip lays out the best line of the episode, which is, if you don't start moving in 5 seconds, I'm going to take my face pistol and shoot you in the ass, which is something only someone from the South would say.
Listen, we got a way of doing things on the Enterprise, and it's anytime we're in a cave and I'm in the cave too, phase pistols are getting shot. Usually I'm the one getting shot by my boss, but she's not here, and I've got the pistol, so you're going to be the one getting shot. It's not an earthquake. There is infighting between the new regime and the old regime. There's some holdouts, and I don't know, they're dropping depth charges on each other or whatever. It's causing earthquakes. There's some shit that falls on. Okay, we really got to go for real now. They get to the wall, and it's at this point it dawns on them, like, hey, we're covered in like harnesses and climbing gears, and you guys just have a bunch of like plastic pencil cases full of rocks. Like, where's your climbing gear? Oh, we didn't bring climbing gear. And I'm like, oh my God, please tell me I'm going to get some bad CGI Spider-Man stuff. And they're like, yeah, we're like bad CGI spider climbers. I'm like, please show it. And yeah, it looks like fucking Batman. It's not even CGI. Like, these guys are very clearly on a flat surface, just like walking on all fours. But next to him is like, Adam West on a rope squatting, like he's slowly climbing up. So they just spider up there. They find Mayweather. They help schlep him the rest of the way up. Meanwhile, up on the ship, Archer's freaking out because he
He
thinks that,
threatens to start a war with a planet he just got to for the very first time if they don't like stop depth charging where the caves are, and they respond to that. And then the episode ends with them getting to the shuttlecraft. You think there's going to be a fight, then there isn't, which was a weird choice. I don't know why they just didn't leave.
yeah,
And then it was a final scene on the A2 plot, which is, hey, there's going to be Denoblians hanging out on your ship. I hope you're willing to continue to grow. And he's like, yes. And
yes, there's been
then,
positive growth, and basically Earth's meddling in our people's affairs are resulting in a brighter future for both of us, and this is the promise of the Federation, and what you guys are here to see.
it,
The real
maybe it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
All I was going to say is I think you said something in the beginning and it stick with me for our entire discussion. Something wound these guys up, and I think that might have raised the episode a lot in my estimation. Also, might be just the soft bigotry of low expectations that come with season 2 being as bad as it's been, and that this one was like enjoyable and I was engaged and I really thought like everyone was trying. That I was like, oh, this is great. Maybe it's not great. I'm still going to stick by like this was worth watching and I enjoyed it. And
Well,
yeah, there was something going on here that just felt like that we've been missing. We'll say
this
that.
is, again, we'll jump back to oh gosh, what was the one with the evil Vulcan science people not wanting to help to Paul because she's got space aids.
Oh yeah, the one with the Tremere Chantry. I forget the
Right.
name of it, but yeah, that one.
That's
Stigma. I think it was maybe Stigma.
Stigma.
Okay.
So, it's the beloved social commentary well that old Trek used to be able to go to and highlight things and prompt social change. I think this is a nice reflection on racism and the need to grow past it without just completely clobbering you over the fucking head with it. And
It's not like the AIDS episode level of in your face. I agree.
which again, I really liked the AIDS episode because I don't until I read that was a big part of the AIDS awareness push they were doing on network television. It wasn't like it was really hit me in the face.
We had a gay fan of ours who called us out for being extremely straight for not feeling like it was hitting us over the head. By the way, on Twitter, Archivist Prime, good looking out. He's like, yeah, you can tell you guys are straight that you were like not immediately like rolling your eyes at how in your face it was. I'm like, oh, okay, fair.
I like the old style commentary that they would do where it's not, hey, we're going to highlight a thing. And then also in the process, the good guys are going to stunt hard on the ignorant guys and really rub their face in shit and zing them into compliance. It's like, hey, you're going halfway and I'm going halfway and we're reaching this thing together. And it's this positive growth experience, not someone getting bullied into something. I don't know. The end is also really great because not only have we on the Phlox plot shown that, hey, there's positive social growth going, but it also has a direct return on investment in Phlox's own life, as this has lit a fire under his ass to reach out to his son Metis and say, hey, listen, it's been 10 years since we talked. Some shit's happened on my little adventure on this hairless monkey ship I've been hanging around with. And I think we need to try to, he makes an honest effort to try and reconnect with his son, share what's happened, and hope that that's maybe going to have a positive impact on his family. Because
yeah, it's very good for it's this great Phlox content here, and it reemphasizes the importance of his family to him, and obviously we've seen that tied in with Denoblian culture already, and that he's very thoughtful and he's a lot of depth and he's a lot of lived experience, which is probably unique amongst everyone else on the show. Like even to Paul, she's older, but she's also been very rigid and career focused. Like
and naive.
And Phlox is the only family man really on the ship. Everybody else is a bachelor.
True.
So it's cool to have that fleshed out more.
I also like that he opens the letter and then like they kind of move out of range of what he's actually saying.
Yeah.
What I need then is at the end of the credits, I need a stinger where he finishes the letter and says, "So I hope, given all that, you can give Antarans a second chance." Also, P.S. I tried to get the engineer to fuck your mother, but these humies are too good for her. So
Well, what episode of Enterprise are we going to be too good for next week, Peter?
we're going into season 2, episode 22, Congenitor.
Cognitor, maybe.
C- c- c-
Cogenitor? Yeah, maybe cogenitor. Fuck. We're gonna find out, I guess, next week.
Ooh, written
Yeah.
by Berman and Braga, directed by LeVar Burton. There's no teleplay, so this is direct from the source. Oh gosh, LeVar Burton. LeVar, what fucking river are they sending up this time? Enterprise encounters the Vicisians, a race that includes a third gender of congenitors who are treated as second-class citizens. Yep, smells like some Berman. Speaking of
It
social commentary,
it is an episode that is very Trek, very well known, and to be honest, I don't think I've watched this one in quite some time. It's like held up as a great Trek episode, but I don't want to impeach our thoughts because it's probably been more than a decade since I've seen it. It's just one I think I've skipped over in rewatches in the past, and I can't really tell you why. So I'm looking forward to digging into this one again. It'll be like I'm watching it for the first time again.
all
And
right,
we'll see you all for that adventure next week.